Good morning, everyone. So today we're going to be working to connect our hips to the spine, and specifically with pelvic tilt. When we walk in gait function, our pelvis work ipsilaterally. So with each individual pelvis, I want to have the ability to anterior and posteriorly rotate or tilt, and they need to be able to do it counter to each other. So we're going to go through a shin box, half kneeling, and standing, assessing that pelvic mobility in each position. Another concept I want to kind of think about is how access to movement is going to be positionally related. So depending on the position that we are in will impact the relationship of that mobility within, specifically for today, within the pelvis and related into the spine. And this is important as far as gait function, because with every step that we take, we have this action. And if one pelvis is not moving as well as the other pelvis, it's going to have a pretty strong impact on the overall function of our gait mechanics, creating some imbalances in our gait. So we're going to be doing some work in the half kneeling. If you find that your knees are sensitive, we can do the same work in a chair. I'm not going to show the chair work today. I have other videos with the chair mobility. I will try to remember to link it down in the description of this video. If I do not, please put a comment in and I will. So with all that, let's get started. So we're going to start in shin box today, and we're going to go through our full shin box series. I'm in my left side shin box. I'm bringing my left hand down to the ground, palm, grounding through that palm. From here, I want to spiral the elbow pit out and away so that we feel that chest open up, shoulder blade packed down and back. Nice, tall spine. I also want to make sure that our weight is shifted over the side that we are on in our shin box. So I'm in my left side. I want weight on the left side hip and hand. Back hip is off the ground. I'm not trying to keep it pushed down. Pay attention to this front knee. I don't want that knee lifting up off the ground. If our weight is shifted, that knee should stay stuck to the ground. From here, we're going to start with some nice inhale in through the nose, filling up our crocodile breath, breathing into belly, side body, into our low back. Inhale through the nose, exhale, drawing our navel into our spine as we exhale through the mouth. With each inhale, see if you can feel that expansion around the abdominal wall. Again, not just through the front and the belly, but also out through the side and into your low back. As you start to feel that breath, nice expansion, we're going to get some movement into this back hip. Again, my weight is shifted forward. On our inhale, I want to reach that hip down to we're trying to touch the floor with it, but without shifting weight into it. So I'm kind of dropping into that hip. On the inhale, on the exhale, we're going to lift that hip, reaching it forward, and lightly scooping our tailbone into it as we draw that navel in. See if you can feel a stretch through the front of that hip. Inhale, we're reaching that hip to the floor. Exhale, drawing navel in and nice scoop. We're playing with anterior tilt of that pelvis, that one side pelvis, as we're dropping it to the floor. Scooping into it is moving us into posterior tilt. We're going back and forth and really get a good gauge of how far does your hip travel? How close are you able to get to the floor? Can you touch the floor? How far forward can you get scooping into it? Can you get straight through the front of the hip? Can you get full hip extension? The more hip extension you are able to get, the more you're going to feel tightening in the glute. I don't want to intentionally squeeze the glute. I want to scoop so that you feel the glute tighten. Once we get 5 to 10 reps or breaths in, We're going to slowly move to the other side and do the same thing. So again, grounding palm, spiraling that elbow pit out and away, feeling the shoulder blade pack down and back. Nice tall spine lifting up tall through the sternum. Weight is shifted forward onto that right side if you're on your right hand. Back hip, we're going to start with a few breaths again. Nice inhale into that crocodile breath. Exhale, drawing your navel into your spine as you exhale through the mouth. And with each one, see if you can feel that abdominal wall expand a little bit more. On the next inhale, as you inhale, we're going to reach that back hip to the floor, again, without shifting weight. I want to make sure that front knee is not lifting up. Got to keep that weight forward. We're reaching back like we're trying to touch the floor. Exhale, lifting it off the floor, reaching that hip forward, and actively scooping the tailbone into it. Again, we want to feel that length and stretch on the front of the hip. And as we're going back and forth on this side, how far does this hip travel compared to the other side? Do you have more range or do you have less range? Does it feel more tight and restricted than the other side? For me, my left hip is generally my tight hip. It compensates for the instability in my right knee after 5 surgeries. So this anterior hip is always tight, especially first thing in the morning. It's part of the reason I have to work on this pretty early in the day, and when I don't, I pay a price for it. As we get to 5 to 10 reps, we're going to move to the other side. We're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to start to build on top of it. So again, nice grounded palm. Weight is forward on the knee side, that your knee angle arrow. Inhale, let that hip drop. Exhale, scoop into it. We'll do 3 breaths, and then we're going to add our reach with our rotation. Now, the second time doing this movement, it should feel a little easier. As I get into the third one, as we exhale and scoop, now we're imagining we got a piece of bread and we are sharing that bread with somebody straight through that forward knee. Nice reach, extending through the fingertips. Inhale, bringing it all the way back. Reach that hip to the floor. Exhale, as we scoop, I want to lock that hip into that scoop. Feel that glute as much as you can, and then add the rotation afterwards. So we're going into posterior scoop, and we're applying rotation in the spine. And I want to feel, how is our spinal rotation, very specifically lumbar rotation, moving up into thoracic rotation related to this hip. After 5 to 10 reps, we're going to slowly move back to the other side. And doing the same thing. Grounded palm, spiraled elbow, pack shoulder, tall spine. Inhale, letting that hip reach to the floor. Exhale, just doing the scoop, not doing the reach just yet. Again, hopefully this side feels a little bit more mobile the second time around. It does for me, although it's still tighter than the other side. And these differences from one side to the other are really, really important to assess, because what we're feeling is that relationship between ipsilateral pelvic tilt, right side and left side. And if it's tighter on the floor, I guarantee it's going to be tighter in your gait mechanics. So this is an area where we can work on it in order to gain more balance in our mobility. Once we get to our third, as we exhale, scoop, lock that hip in, and then we're reaching, sharing that bread. Oh man, And this is tight all the way up into my spine. So I can feel that tight hip that's not moving as well on the left side is also creating restriction in my spine in rotation along with it. So that's a big pattern that is significantly different on one side of my body compared to the other. And that's going to have some significant impacts into gait mechanics, which is part of the reason a week ago I was dealing with some low back pain. Actually was still feeling it a little bit this morning. After we do 5 to 10 reps, we're now going to move back to the other side. Now I want to keep that shift forward, but we're going to take that hand off the floor and bringing that arm up so that the forearm is flush with the ceiling. We're still inhaling into that back hip, dropping it to the floor. Again, weight is still more primarily on the other side hip. Exhale, scooping into it. We'll do 3 breaths, just working that position. You may notice that having that hand off the floor is a lot harder to maintain position. Our body might want to lean into that hand. That'll be an indication of some tension and tightness through that side body space of the spine and the hip. Now as we get to that 3rd breath, as we inhale, exhale, we're scoop and lock into that scoop. And now we're going to lift, reaching that elbow like you're trying to touch the ceiling. You can also kind of reach down through that same side hip at the same time. Inhale, we're letting that soften. Feel that hip drop to the floor. Exhale, scoop, lock that hip in, and reach. What I want to avoid on this particular movement is as I lock that hip in and get into the reach, I don't want to drop my opposite shoulder. I don't want to drop this down in order to try to reach that elbow up. I want to keep this shoulder at the same level, lock that hip in, and then just get extension on this opposite side. I do not want flexion on my right side. See if you can feel some lengthening through that outside shoulder all the way through outside lateral side of your low back. Can you feel some lengthening from hip to shoulder on that side with that exhale? Once we get 5 to 10 reps, we're going to switch to the other side. So again, hand comes up, forearm is flush with the ceiling. We're inhaling into that back hip, reaching it to the floor. Exhale, scooping it forward. It's a lot harder on this side, especially with my right hand off the floor. This hip is so tight, my body really wants to put that hand down. This is one of the more magical positions and movements of the shin box. It can feel a little challenging, a lot of cueing, it's a little disconcerting. But when we can get into it, there's a lot of value that we get out of it, related to the knees, related to the hips, and the spine. As we get to that 3rd breath, as you exhale, lock that hip in, and now we're lifting and reaching, trying to touch that ceiling with the elbow. Inhale, letting it all soften back down. Exhale, scoop, and reach. And again, we can also kind of reach down through this same side hip as the elbow reaches up. And just like the other side, we want to watch that opposite shoulder to make sure that we are not dropping it down towards the floor in order to elevate that elbow higher. We want to keep that shoulder tall and just reach and extend up more so we get that length entirely through that side body space. Once we get 5 to 10 reps, we'll switch back to the other side. And now we get into our folds. So with folds, we're going to use the shin. Hands, I want to keep hands and shoulders square to the shin to start out in order to kind of have a good assessment point for the fold. Taking a nice inhale, dropping into that back hip. Exhale, we're locking, scooping that hip, locking into it, and then both hands reaching evenly as far as we can, comfortably. I want to keep those hands even. I don't want one hand reaching further than the other. Inhale brings it all the way back up, letting that hip drop to the floor. Exhale, scoop, and reach. Now, one thing I want to watch out for on our fold. As we fold, I don't want to round my spine and drop my head to the floor. I want to keep the spine very tall. As I get that scoop, my hands are out and I'm sliding. I'm keeping a nice long spine. I don't want to round trying to drop the head down to the floor. So that'll be something to really pay attention to, especially if you have a stiff back. It might mean that you don't go very far. You may only go this far, which is fine. That is what the assessment point is. We're looking to see how much mobility we have with that back hip scooped, getting into that fold. Once we do 5 to 10, we're going to switch to the other side and do the same thing. So again, inhale, in through the nose, feel that back hip drop to the floor. Exhale, scoop into it, lock that back hip forward. Exhale, both hands reaching evenly. As we exhale, inhale, coming back up, letting that hip drop. Notice how far are you able to go on this side. Again, keeping a nice tall spine, keeping both hands reaching evenly. I don't want that one hand reaching further. Where does it feel tight? Do you feel it more in that back hip that's dropping down and scooping? Do you feel it more in the glute on the forward side? Or do you feel it in your low back? Or maybe you even feel it up in the shoulders as you reach. All of those are really valuable assessment points. So I would take notes of them, and that can be useful when you come in for a consultation with me to kind of figure out what areas need to be worked on to get some mobility, better balance of mobility. Come back to the other side. We are now going to start to go back and forth through our shin box. At this point, my maintaining square with the shin, I'm less concerned. We can be a little bit more exploratory. So we're going to get our nice exhale, reach, inhale, bringing it all the way back up, and then transitioning all the way over to the other side. Doing the same thing. By going back and forth, we really get a lot more, that assessment level of comparing right side and left side gets a little easier. As we go back and forth, I want to notice what feels more similar and dissimilar in our shin box as we're going back and forth between the right side and the left side. Do you notice that you can reach a little bit further when you're dropping to the left compared to the right? Do you notice that there's more tightness or tension either in the front hip or the back hip on one side more so than the other? As you get to about 5 reps, we're now going to start to open up our shin box. So as you get into the position, you can let that back leg slide open a little bit wider. Finding that comfortable fold. Again, keeping the spine straight, not dropping the head towards the floor. Inhale as we bring it back up. Shin box to the other side, and then open that back leg to the same amount. By opening up this back leg a little bit, it's going to change that access to that back, the mobility in that back hip. So you might notice that one side, this feels a little easier, and the other side feels a little tighter. Again, that is very helpful information as far as understanding where, how our bodies are moving and where we're holding tension, and especially for where things are out of balance. And with each one, we can continue to open up that back leg more and more so that we're getting closer and closer to what we would consider a yoga class pigeon pose. And I love getting a good number of reps, working up to 20 reps or even more, going slow, as long as it is not painful. I find this to be a really good slow groove for the hips, especially as we get closer and closer to kind of our yoga class pigeon pose. Now, I'm not overly concerned about that end range pigeon pose. I only want to go as far as we comfortably can, non-painfully, non-forcefully. So if you cannot get full extension of that leg right now, that's okay. That's not our goal. Our goal is simply to get an understanding of how our body moves differently on the right side compared to the left side. Also to kind of notice where it moves well, what feels good and juicy. All right, we're going to come back to our starting point of our shin box, and we're going to do the last thing for shin box, which is working up to our knees. Now, shin box to knees can be if you have painful knees, like my knees sometimes are. I want to be very cautious with this. If the knees hurt, I don't want to do it. So skip this if there's any kind of pain in the knees. We're going to start by using our hands because I want to make sure that the knees don't hurt. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of an assist. I've got one hand behind, one hand in front as I help to lift up to knees. Making sure, again, it's not painful. If there's any pain in the knees, I want you to back off. Once we're up at the top, we can scoop the hips into it. Exhale, draw that navel in, scoop that tailbone forward to feel that nice little mobility stretch in the front of the hip. And then we're going to use our hands to come back down to the floor. We're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. I want to make sure this is not painful on both sides before we get into not using the hands. As we come up, get that nice scoop. Again, feel that nice stretch in the hips. And inhale as we come back down and go to the other side. Now, if that was not painful, and you're ready, you feel like you have the strength that you can do this without knees, we can go without hands. If it feels a little weak, if it's hard to control, then go ahead and continue to use the hands to assist. But we're going to try to use as little hands as possible so that you have to use your core and your body to move up and down. The no hands part, we're driving through both knees to lift hips up, get that scoop of the pelvis. On the inhale, we are reaching our hips back, trying to kiss the hips to the floor. I want to watch out for plopping or dropping. And we're going to continue to go back and forth on this. Same thing on the other side. Feel that nice lift through the hips, scoop, and then reaching back. I want to kiss the hips to the floor. I don't want to plop. Now, as we're kind of getting into this, feeling more comfortable with it, now I want to really start to reach. I want to imagine my tail, I'm trying to reach as far back and touch as far back on the floor before I actually come into contact with the floor. Bring it all the way across and doing the same thing on the other side. The more I reach back, the more stretch I'm going to feel in that glute. And that's kind of what I want to get into, is feel that length and stretch associated with the descent of our shin box to knees. And one thing we can do to kind of add even more stretch to the glutes is add a counter reach through the hands. That'll give us a little counterbalance. which will allow you to reach even a little bit further before your hips kiss the ground. And again, to feel that nice length through the glute. Notice if this is harder to do on one side compared to the other, especially with that plop. Are you able to kiss the ground with your hips on one side and the other side has a little bit less control? That's going to be incredibly important as far as gait goes. We'll finish up with one more. I like doing about 5 to 10 reps on this as well. Good. All right. So now we're going to come up into our half kneeling. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the staff. I want to have the staff available for if you feel any kind of imbalance on this, or just balance in general. If you find that this is a hard position to focus on the hip without feeling like you're kind of teetering, go ahead and have a staff so that helps to stabilize your body so that you can just focus on that hip. We're primarily working mobility, so I don't want to think about the staff as a useful tool for right now. We can also use it when we get into the rotational part. Back toe, I want tucked underneath. I want it tucked as if we're going to drive off that back foot into a dead sprint. So I want to feel that toe tucked underneath. The knee I want directly under the hip, directly under the shoulder, directly under the spine. You take the staff, it should go through all those points up to the head. From here, we're coming back into our breath, breathing into the belly. Allow that pelvis to tilt down towards the floor, anterior tilt. On the exhale, we're drawing our navel into the spine as we scoop. Should feel some stretch. This is taking us into posterior tilt. Feel that stretch to the front of the hip. Nice load into the big toe joint. Inhale, fill up the belly, pelvis tilts forward. This will make a sway in the low back. I want to make sure that this is not painful in the low back in either of these directions. Exhale, scoop. Inhale, tilt down towards the floor. As we're exhaling and scooping, I am not lunging. I'm not moving forward. I want to keep that, again, head directly over shoulders, directly over hips, directly over knee. Once we do 5 to 10 reps, we're going to switch to the other side. I'm doing the same thing. Loading that big toe. Feel that big toe tucked underneath. And a quick assessment point will be, notice if one big toe feels harder to get into this position than the other one. My left big toe is a little stiff right now. In fact, it needs to pop. That helped. So, head over shoulders, over hips, over knees. Big toe is loaded. Inhale into the belly. Feel that pelvis tilt forward. Exhale, drawing navel into the spine as we add that scoop. Turn around and make this more visible. Now, notice the difference of how this position feels in both directions. My left hip is my tighter hip. As I scoop into it, I have more tightness, more tension through the front of this hip compared to the right side. As I inhale and tilt forward, I also notice I have more tension in the low back when I do this leg compared to the other leg. So that's an important assessment point to notice. How do things feel different on one side compared to the other? Because that's going to relate to different areas of the body with our gait mechanics. Again, 5 to 10 reps. And hopefully, with each rep, you're able to get a little bit more range out of it. even if it's just adding a millimeter of range. I don't want to force it, but just simply moving back and forth should give us more access. Switching sides, getting into the exact same position. We're going to start with the same movement, and then we're going to add a layer to it. So nice inhale into that belly, pelvis tilts. Exhale, scoop. Again, the second time around, it should feel a little easier. Again, I want to notice the differences on this side that compared to the side we just did. Again, I got tightness on this, but it's just not anywhere near the same as what's on the left side. Now, as we get to our third exhale, as we exhale, I want to scoop and I want to lock that hip into that scoop. And then we're taking the hand that is the same hand as the knee that's on the ground. With that scoop, we're reaching straight up to the ceiling like we're trying to touch the ceiling. Inhale, we're letting that elbow soften. Breathing in, pelvis tilts forward, getting that sway in the back. Exhale, scoop, lock it in first, and then reach. Notice this is a similar movement to what we did in the shin box. And just like the shin box on this, as I reach with this hand, I don't want to drop my opposite shoulder in order to help with that reach. I want to keep this shoulder the same height. As I reach, I'm elevating this shoulder without dropping that other shoulder, at least as much as possible. Once we get 5 to 10 reps, we'll switch to the other side. Again, make sure that big toe is tucked underneath. Inhale, filling up that belly, big sway in the back as the pelvis tilts forward. Exhale, drawing navel to spine and scoop. We're not going to apply the reach just yet. I want to get 3 breaths in. Again, noticing where are things similar and dissimilar from the other side, and does it move a little bit better the second time around? I got more mobility in this hip the second time around so far. On this next exhale, as you scoop, lock that hip in, and then we're reaching up to the ceiling. So again, this side is tighter than the other side. Not just the hip, but also as I get into this reach, my low back moving up along the side of my spine, a little bit less mobility, a little bit more restricted. How does that impact gait mechanics? It's going to be pretty significant when one side has more mobility access than the other side does. The side that doesn't move very well is going to restrict movement related to gait on one side specifically, which is going to create an imbalance with every step that we take. And if we're getting 5 to 10,000 steps per day, that's 5 to 10,000 repetitions that are out of balance with one another. So we're getting more range of motion on one side, through one side of the body, than we are on the other side. Once we get 5 to 10 reps, I'm going to switch back to the other side. We're starting with the same hip scoop. Again, big toe should be loaded. Scoop that pelvis, and instead of reach, we're now going to take that free hand, turn that palm up, and we're going to rotate our body, reaching all the way back. I want that chest to turn towards the wall at your side, like you're trying to reach back to something behind you. But as you do so, I want to keep our eyes pinned forward. I don't want to let the head follow the hand, okay? So we're going to exhale and scoop. Eyes stay fixed on a point on the wall. Spiral your palm up and rotate, reaching back. I'm using the hand the same side hand as the knee that is on the floor to start. As you come forward, inhale, let that pelvis tilt forward. Exhale, scoop, lock it in, spiral that palm up as you reach back. Once you do 5 to 10 reps, we're going to switch and do the same thing on the other side. Again, big toe is still tucked in and locked. Inhale, nice scoop or tilt. Exhale, scoop as we draw that navel in, opening up our palm, hand, and rotating as we reach back. Again, eyes are fixed on a point on the wall in front. Inhale, bringing it back. Pelvis tilts, sway in the back. Exhale, scoop into it. Rotate that palm up to the ceiling as you reach back. How does this range of motion feel on this side compared to the other side? I have a lot more restriction on this side rotation. I also have more restriction in this shoulder. My shoulder doesn't want to spiral as much. Again, my left side does a lot of compensation for old injury patterns on the right side. So these are things that I'm constantly working on, trying to maintain as much balance as possible. Once we do 5 to 10 reps, we're going to go back to the other side, and we're now going to switch hands. So instead of my knee side hand being free, I'm switching the staff to the other side. Inhale, scoop, lock that hip in, and now that opposite side hand, spiraling that palm up and rotating and reaching back. Again, eyes are fixed on a point on the wall straight in front of us. Inhale as we bring our arm forward, big sway in the back. Exhale, scoop, lock in that hip. Spiral that palm up towards the ceiling as you rotate, reaching as far back as you can. Comfortably, non-painfully. Again, notice how does this feel on this side? How much mobility? Where do you feel it? You might notice that your core is actually working kind of hard right now, which is a good thing. Once we get 5 to 10 reps, switch back to the other side. Again, locking in that big toe. Inhale, pelvis tilts down. Exhale, navel in as we scoop. And then that free hand spirals up as we reach back. Oh. Again, related to my left hip, everything through the spine is tighter. So when it comes to this left hip, my spine is a lot stiffer compared to the right side of my body, hip relationship. Again, functions of gait. This is an important thing. I deal with back pain on a pretty regular basis. This is how I can kind of keep myself from really being crippled and disabled. I've done a lot of damage to my body. These movements are what help me remain as functionally dysfunctional as possible. I will never be full functional, not after the surgeries, not after having the number of injuries I've had. So the goal is to be as functional as possible. Once we balance those sides out, we can set the staff down, and now we're going to come all the way up to standing. And we're going to largely do all the same movements. So from standing, I want to take my leg and I want to reach as far back with it as I possibly can without shifting my weight back onto it. I want to keep my weight on that forward leg. So I'm reaching back and just kind of setting that foot down without shifting weight onto it. I want to keep that weight forward. From here, we're going to actively reach our heel, actively straighten the knee, and reach that heel like you're trying to touch the floor. If you can touch the floor, great, but I don't want to shift weight back to touch the floor. Again, I want to keep that weight forward. You may find that the more you bend that front knee and sink into that front leg, allows you to reach a little bit further. We're exhaling as we reach. We're going to inhale as we let that knee soften and plant the ball of your foot into the floor like you're driving your heel up to the ceiling. And then exhale as you actively straighten and reach. Inhale as you let that knee soften. As you actively reach, straightening that knee, can you feel some length? May not be a big stretch, but can you feel some length to the front of that hip? Once you've done 5 to 10 reps, we're going to switch legs. I'm going to go ahead and grab the staff because I forgot to remind, this gets to be a part of our assessment or our movement here in order to help keep balance so that we can focus specifically on the hips. So again, we're reaching as far back as we comfortably can to set that foot down without shifting weight off our front leg. And then actively reaching that heel to touch the floor as we actively straighten that knee. I want to push the back of the knee back. Again, we can kind of sink into that front leg as we do so. Inhale as we let that knee soften. Plant the ball through the ball of the big toe as you drive the heel up to the ceiling. And then actively reach that heel, actively straightening the knee. Inhale as you plant. Exhale as you reach that heel. How does this side feel compared to the other side? Again, my left hip, it's a little tighter. I don't get a huge stretch on this, so a big stretch is not important, but I do notice it feels tighter on this side than it does on the other side. Once you get 5 to 10, switching legs again. This time I'm going to make sure that I'm reaching back with my right leg, so I want the staff in, I want it in my left hand. Staff in the left hand. So I want the staff on the same side as the leg that is in front. So reaching that foot back to that same point in the back, and now we're going to do the same thing for 3 breaths. So actively reach that heel to the floor, actively straighten the knee. On the exhale, inhale, letting that knee soften as we plant the foot. And on the third one, as you reach the heel and straighten the knee, you're going to take that same side hand and reach up towards the ceiling like you're trying to touch the ceiling, at the same time that you're trying to reach your heel back. And again, I want to make sure we're doing this without shifting weight back. So as we reach that heel, straighten that and reach up to the sky. See if you can feel that length through the front of the hip, up into the abdominal viscera, reaching up towards the ceiling. Inhale, letting it soften, planting the foot. Exhale, reach the heel, straighten that knee, reaching the fingers up towards the sky. Just like with the shin box and the half kneeling, as we reach, I don't want to drop that opposite shoulder. Keep that shoulder in place as we reach up. Once we get 5 to 10 reps on that side, we're going to switch and do the same thing on the other side. So planting that foot back or stepping back lightly, keeping our weight on the front leg. Exhale as we reach that heel, straighten the knee, not adding the reach just yet. Inhale as the knee softens, planting that foot. On the third one, as you reach that heel, straightening that knee, we're reaching up towards the ceiling. Again, this is the side. I can feel a lot more. I actually now, as I add that reach, I can feel more stretch in the front of my left hip that I did not feel on the right. It feels good right now too. My left hip is loosening up in a way that it has not in a while. It's been a while since I've done this kind of series in a row, really focusing on the hip. So this feels really good. All right, so we're gonna switch back to the other side. I still wanna keep that staff in the side of the leg that's in front. Stepping that back foot down. We're now gonna get into rotation. So again, I want to have the eyes fixed on a point on the wall forward. If we start moving our head with our hands, greater chance of getting some vestibular, some dizziness, feeling a little off balance. So I want to reduce risks of falls. If you have some imbalance on this, it might be good to get a little wider in your base. And if you feel that you're just too out of balance and you can't do it, then that's why we have the shin box and the half kneeling, and I would focus on those for a while, and we can work on that balance in other ways. So, that nice step back, as we reach that heel to the floor, straightening the knee, now our free hand is spiraling up to the ceiling and reaching back as far as we can go. Inhale brings it forward as we soften the knee, planting the foot. Exhale, reach that heel, straighten that knee, spiral the palm. How far back can you rotate? Once we do 5 to 10 reps, I'm going to switch to the other side, getting that nice reach, keeping that weight forward. Inhale as the knee is softened. Exhale as we reach that heel, and then free hand spirals up to the ceiling as we reach back. Again, eyes stay fixed on a point on the wall in front. Arm comes back forward. Bend the knee, plant the foot as we inhale, and then exhale, reach the heel, straighten the knee, spiral up towards the ceiling. How does it feel this side compared to the other side? I can feel a lot more in my shoulder and chest, especially as I spiral up and add that rotation. It actually feels kind of good. I feel that shoulder and chest opening up as we get into this. Good. All right, we're going to switch sides, and now we're going to keep the staff in the opposite hand from the leg that's in front. As we step back, we're going to do the same rotation, but it's going to be on the arm side of the leg that's in front. So inhale, knee is bent, planting that foot. Exhale, reaching the heel, straightening the knee, spiraling that palm up. Nice rotation as we reach back. Inhale as we let that knee soften. Exhale, straighten the knee, reach the heel, spiral up. Eyes are fixed on a point on the wall in front of us. After 5 or 10, switching to the other side. It's a nice step back. Inhale with that knee bent. Exhale as we reach the heel, straightening the knee. Then we're spiraling that palm and rotating back. How does this side move compared to the other side? By getting up into standing position, we are kind of really getting a much more accurate assessment of our gait mechanics. So anything you're feeling that's different on one side compared to the other side, this is what is showing up with every step that you take. So the more we can mobilize and free up and get balance between one side in our practice compared to the other side, the more efficient our gait mechanics are going to be. All right, let's finish up with a little bit of baby roll stretch on the floor. We're going to come all the way down to our back. Feet are about hip width apart. Toes are straight up to the ceiling. We're very lightly engaging our heels down into the floor. Arms are coming up into a nice Y position. If you find your shoulders are stiff and they don't want to relax down to the floor, you can bring them out a little bit wider until you find they rest comfortably. From here, let's take some nice deep breaths in first. Nice inhale into that crocodile breath. Exhale, drawing that navel into the spine. On the next inhale, as you exhale, we're going to lift our head and let our eyes reach towards the hands on one side. As we take our other hand, we're going to reach to match that hand. Head and shoulder have to come off the floor. I want to keep both heels in contact with the floor. Inhale as we bring it all the way back. Exhale as we lift the head and reach across to the other side. With each exhale as we reach, I'm seeing how long can I get from fingertip to toe, from toe tip to fingertip. Can I feel that length through the entirety of my body from fingertip all the way down to toe tip? As you get comfortable with it, as you're reaching through your fingertips, start to point and reach away with the toes. Get 5 to 10 reps on each side. Come back to our start, and now we're going to do the same thing through the legs. We're going to lift one leg up high off the ceiling. I want to reach across as if we're putting it on top of a shelf. I don't want to let that foot drop down to the floor. As we reach, the hip obviously comes off the floor. The shoulder blade is allowed to come off the floor, but try to keep some contact with the back of the hand. Seeing how far can you reach comfortably. Inhale, bringing it all the way back to the floor. Exhale, we're reaching across to the opposite side. As I reach, I'm seeing how far can I get those toes to go, maintaining some contact to the floor with the back of the hand. Again, shoulder has to come off the floor to get that good reach. And with each one, we're seeing how long can we get from fingertip to toe tip. Really reaching and extending away. Inhales, we bring it back. As you're reaching through the toes, start to reach away through the fingers. Really trying to draw that traction through the body. How does this feel on the right side compared to the left side? Once you get 5 to 10 reps, we're going to come back down, let the feet relax comfortably on the floor, And let's get another 5 to 10 nice crocodile breaths. Allow the hands to soften to the floor with the palms up. Feel your shoulders soften and relax. Feel your head soften to the floor. Nice inhale, filling up that abdominal wall. Exhale, feel that navel draw all the way into the spine. And with each inhale, see if you can inflate that balloon or that crocodile breath a little bit wider, a little bit bigger. And start to allow that breath to move up into the ribs, the chest, the shoulders, and the neck. Feel that nice balloon expand through the entire torso. Exhale. Feel that full expression of breath out. And then how much can you feel that balloon inflate? And on your inhale, kind of breathe into tension. And on the exhale, allow that tension to melt off the body and to release down into the floor. And when you're ready, you're going to open your eyes and very slowly sit back up.